Hi, everyone. This is Wendy Castle, dietitian with One Bite Nutrition. Very happy to have Nikki Bomar, one of our dietitians, here with us. We're just going to go over maybe some information that you might not have heard of. It's kind of hot in the media, but people don't really understand what it is. We're going to talk about ultra processed foods and give you some tips and tricks on that. So, Nikki, what are ultra processed foods? We're hearing this in the media, and what does that even mean? It's kind of a hot term right now.
Yeah, so that term refers to making those foods out of items technically not typically found in our kitchen household, or our household kitchen. These items are manufactured usually in a factory or on a plant on usually a very large scale, and they undergo multiple processing steps versus like one or two with something like processed foods.
Yeah, so you mentioned processed foods. What's the difference between ultra processed and processed?
So we're really looking at that degree of change there. So even if we change it just a little bit before we buy it, it's still considered a processed food. So something like baby carrots who are washed and cut. Pre-cut fruit, right? It's still cut up. Or bagged lettuce, it's cut, it's washed. All of these are changed from their original state before we purchase the item, so they are still technically processed foods. However, this isn't usually what people think of when they think of the term processed foods. That's what we're really getting at with that ultra processed foods, which they're again highly modified from that original state. So things like going down the cereal aisle, some frozen meals, processed meats, things like that.
Gotcha. So are they healthy? Is this something that people should be eating regularly?
Yeah, so these foods usually have things added to them. So things like added sugars, saturated fats, which are those bad fats, refined carbohydrates. So that's taking out the fiber and the healthy fat in our carbs. And our bodies do need those. So there are some ultra processed foods that don't add as much of these items as others do, and they can be used in moderation and still contain, in a healthy diet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really looking at the label and seeing if you can get less ingredients, things that are not as processed and modified. And we'll have some tips and tricks on the website of lists of things that are kind of our go-to products. So how do these ultra processed foods affect our health?
Yeah, so they definitely come with a wide range of possible health issues, things like nutrition deficiencies, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, GI issues, and of course, that unwanted weight gain that is usually the trouble with a lot of people. The biggest thing, again, to remember is that the misuse of these items is what leads to these health problems, not just only like just having that food once, right? If we're only relying on these foods, that tends to be when these nutrition deficiencies, diabetes, other chronic diseases pop up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if it's causing these problems and we have, we're in the middle of an obesity epidemic and we're seeing high rates of diabetes, why do these ultra processed foods exist and why are so many people still consuming them daily?
Yeah, so there's a very simple reason to this question or questions, and it's because they're easy, right? People use these foods for convenience. They're easy to make, quick to make, and can oftentimes be cheaper to purchase because they do have long shelf lives, right? A company can make them, they can sit on the shelf for a month, and it's okay, right? We can't take a bag of apples, put them on the shelf. They're not going to last that whole month in the store. We're getting to in our time period where these foods have been around for a while. And so, maybe our parents, they kind of started being introduced there. So they started using them as kind of like the new thing then. But now we're getting to a point where a lot of people, this is how they learned to cook growing up, was that with these ultra processed foods. Like, okay, I can read the instructions on the back of a box. That's kind of all I can do. So a lot of people actually don't know how to cook or prepare meals without them.
Yeah, that's very true. A lot of the things I talk to my patients about is, first of all, what type of supplies do you have in your kitchen? Do you have a stove, refrigerator, air fryer? Like, what do you have available? And, do they even enjoy cooking? Some people are to the point where they're so busy, they don't even enjoy cooking. It's a chore. They hate doing it. Where others really do enjoy cooking and they just need a little help with finding recipes where you're using more whole foods. So, can these ultra processed foods be part of a balanced diet?
Yes. Again, that key there's that moderation. So limiting these foods per week is a good idea and not pairing them together, right? So we don't want to have a whole meal with them. So for example, if I have like smoked sausages, maybe boxed mac and cheese and canned creamed corn, that together is a meal like all three ultra processed foods. Instead, maybe I use the same thought process of it and have maybe those sausages with diced potatoes and broccoli, throw them all in a sheet pan, season oven. It can still be quick and easy like that with mixing them into those whole foods there.
Absolutely. So what are some tips for reducing your intake of ultra processed foods?
Yeah. So just like you said earlier, check those labels, right? If the sugar, fat, and or sodium seem too high, it's a good idea to moderate that food intake. Right, planning ahead on those meals can also go a really long way. If we don't plan ahead, then we're probably going to reach for the quickest, easiest thing for that time. Sometimes we need the convenience, and again, that's totally okay. But trying to decrease the amount of times a week we consume that food, right? So if I normally use them every single day, maybe I try to decrease that to 5 days a week. Accomplish that, decrease it to three. So slowly change those habits.
Those are some great tips. Yeah, baby steps. That's kind of our model is, baby steps to meet your health goals. It's not going to happen overnight. We didn't get here overnight. But just making those small changes really does make a huge difference in the long run. It's a marathon, not a sprint when it comes to nutrition. It's something that you'll have to deal with every single day of your life. So just taking your time and making these small changes as we go. So thank you everyone for listening. Hopefully you got some helpful information. Thank you, Nikki, for your expertise and sharing your knowledge. And we hope you join us again.